Welcome to another episode of Estate Planning Nightmares and How to Avoid Them. I'm your host, John Braddock, the author of the Amazon bestseller, Click Here When I Die, and founder of My Life and Wishes, an online planning and document storage solution created to make things easier for those you love. Today, we have another exciting episode for you. I'm thrilled to introduce my guest, attorney Robert Chesser, founder and managing partner of Chesser Legal Solutions, based in Knoxville, Tennessee. His firm is a small boutique firm which singularly focuses on estate planning. Although the firm is based in Knoxville, Robert works with clients all over the great state of Tennessee. They utilize a modern business model with a lot of virtual aspects to make things as easy and as straightforward for their clients as possible. He conducts most meetings via Zoom unless the clients prefer in person. And then document signing and delivery ceremonies are held in person. So prior to opening his own firm, he practiced in a firm that was focused on family law. Now, he opened his own practice because he wanted to focus on estate planning, and because he was convinced he could build a more client-focused practice than any others he had seen before. His passion about creating the best client experience as possible, and he does this by having a clear and simple process, having great communication, putting out a great product, and always following up with his clients. Robert's wife, Stephanie, is an occupational therapist, and currently they are traveling the country while she is fulfilling contracts to different hospitals and healthcare facilities. Presently, they are in Eastern Oregon and slated to go to Southern California in a couple of weeks. Welcome, Robert. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. And thank you for
Absolutely.
that wonderful introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, as you know, I have a passion for estate planning attorneys and the work that you all do,
I do know.
which is the basis of estate planning nightmares, because we want people to avoid them.
Absolutely.
You bet. Hey, before we jump too far in, it sounds like quite an adventure you and your wife are on. How long have you been traveling the country?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, she's a travel occupational therapist. It's like a travel nurse, very similar to that. So she takes 3-month contracts at a time. We're just finishing up our first 3 months here in Eastern Oregon. It's been amazing. It's both of our first times ever being out west, really at all. So yeah, it's been really fun. And then, like you said, we're going to California next, Southern California. So we're sure that's going to be a pretty exciting adventure as well.
Oh, I bet. And for the next 3 months in SoCal, it's going to be, the weather's pretty nice there. Of
Yeah,
course, there's
not a bad way to spend the winter, I think.
absolutely what fun. Wow. And what's really cool about it, what I think is impressive, I've talked to a couple of people throughout the years who they and their spouse have kind of done some of the nomad kind of
Mhm.
lifestyle, bouncing around. But since you perform majority of your estate planning work with your clients virtually, I mean, this seems like a wonderful experience, especially because it doesn't keep you and Stephanie apart for long periods of time.
Yeah, it's been we kind of realized we had the ability to do it. Um Now that, how I've set up my firm where it is primarily virtual. So yeah, we figured why not? Let's jump on it, do it while we can. And I'll go back to Knoxville here and there for different things with the business, but never for long. And I'm, like you said, right back here. It's kind of funny when I used to be in family law, and I'd have clients where we were getting ready for knockdown drag out court hearings, and they still wouldn't want to come into the office. They just, I'll talk to you over Zoom and I'll see you at court. And it's kind of how the world has gone over the last few years, obviously, but it's opened up a lot of really cool doors.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. I speak with a lot of estate planning firms, and following the pandemic and things, yeah, a lot of people prefer the
Yeah.
Zoom. I mean, you can accomplish so much more. As you know, we work with estate planning attorneys all across the country.
Yeah.
You're my third conversation today. I have two or
Mm,
three more scheduled, and one is in Arkansas, one was in Ohio. I'm talking to you in Oregon. I mean, this would never be possible face to
yeah.
face, right?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, hey, I always like to start with everyone's why. We all have a passion for what we do, and obviously, your passion is for estate planning. So, can you tell us a little bit more about you know your background that led you into estate planning, particularly given that you were in family law litigation?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have the misfortune of being able to say, like a lot of estate planning attorneys, that I'm a recovering family law attorney. So, that means that I took custody cases and things like that through the court system and to trial. Um, and there's not much that'll just rip your heart in two more than being in the middle of a years long custody battle that stemmed from a kid losing their parent. It's just, like I said, it just rips your heart in two. By the time the kid is placed with, say the kid's placed with family A or person A, and by the time they're finally getting used to that and used to that home and that new school, all of a sudden they're ripped out of that home and placed with family or person B, and the whole process starts all over again. And being an attorney, I realized that all of that situation could have typically been avoided with some pretty simple planning. And so that kind of led me down the rabbit hole that is estate planning, and it turned out that I really really enjoyed it, and even enjoy the more boring sides of it as well. So kind of just went from there.
Well, it's the probably a bad analogy, but that family law side where you're dealing with the other kind of crap. I mean, that's you know that's like bandages and surgery and stuff, whereas the estate planning is like preventive. It's like vitamins, man. if if
Absolutely.
if we do it right, um
Yeah,
we can
that's
we
a
can
that's a really really good way to put it. I like that a lot.
oh, you're free to use it.
I
Would
appreciate
you
it. I
would you
appreciate
rather take a vitamin, or would you rather be
it.
hospitalized? Your
Yeah, and
choice.
it's a with family law, it's a really really expensive band-aid, and you're dealing with good people on some of their worst days. Uh
Yeah.
this side of it, you get to deal with good people on days that, although they're kind of morbid, to think about your own death. At the end of it, it's a good day. People are happy to be doing it because they're making sure their family's going to be taken care of, and in turn assuring their own peace of mind. So
Yeah, and that peace of mind is it's something. No one ever likes to talk about their own mortality, right? And
yeah.
I always say, come on, it's only death. Lighten up. uh you,
Yeah.
you're not going to be the first, you're not going to be the last, but
Yeah.
you know the reason you do an estate plan and get it, it's because you care about what the experience is going to be like for your family, right?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know and
You don't do it for yourself. You do it for the people that you love.
I mean, our personal experience that led to where we are was, the old attitude of a family member of, hey, someone will figure it out. Well, guess what? Uh, in 1960, it might have been easy to figure out, but not
Yeah.
in 2023, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And cue
very,
the name of
very,
your podcast, because it absolutely is a nightmare when that happens.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like with so many things, I call it, estate planning nightmares and how to avoid them. And for the most part, if people don't have an estate plan or haven't done something, it's going to turn into a nightmare.
Yeah.
And, many times there's people that, um, and I'm sure you hear it all the time. Well, I've got a will, I'm all good to go. It's like, no, even having a will, which expresses kind of what you want, doesn't keep family out of court, doesn't avoid probate, doesn't stop families
Yeah.
from fighting, and it can become a nightmare.
And it can become very expensive.
You know,
Even the simple ones sometimes.
I interviewed an estate planning attorney in New York City a couple months back, and she was telling me that in Kings County in New York metro area, that to get on the probate calendar is taking up to 2 years.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
you can't sell anything. You got property, mortgage payments
Yeah.
continue and
And
on and on.
I mean, if you're um if you're someone who has kids or whoever that's going to be relying on having access to that stuff, I mean, golly, you
Yeah.
don't want that.
Oh, no. So tell me this, people are like, oh yeah, I know I should do it, but I don't know where to start and that kind of stuff. And I know you and how you work, but tell our listeners kind of, how you, approach it. So, I come to you, I don't know where to start. I know
Mhm.
nothing, How do you make it easy? Get people to understand what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, um, the way my process works, and a lot of estate planning attorneys, especially the estate planning attorneys that estate planning is what they do, they focus on it. That first meeting is going to be very, very informational. It's going to be a teaching time. So you let the client tell you all of their concerns and about their situation, but and what they want to happen, but you really dig down and get to their underlying goals, maybe their unsaid goals. Um, that way you kind of well, and then you can teach them. You teach them about all of their different options on how they can get there, because most people don't know. They think, I just need a will. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it starts with learning what options are available, and sometimes you got to go kind of a little deeper with certain clients to get to get everything across. But it starts with education.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens, because it all evolves. So, Michelle and I have six children, and
Mhm.
now they're all they're grown, they're out of house, some are married, so life is a little easier for us.
Yeah.
Um, but our and we're a blended family. So when we first
Mhm.
did our original estate plan and trust documents, it's like we have to consider all the kids. We have one who's special needs, and
Yeah.
so you have to have that thought: what if I don't make it home tonight?
Hmm.
How are things going to go? And then of
Yeah.
course, as I always pound into people, it's like it's not a set it and forget it, because our trust documents look different today uh, in distribution of assets and those things than it did 10
Yeah.
years.
Absolutely. Your goals might change, your family's probably going to change in some way, and the law is almost certainly going to change over time. So, like you said, you can't set it and forget it, because that's another good way to get in trouble.
Right. Talking about kids, I know some of the services, with estate planning, and one of the really critical components is those who have young children. Can
Hmm.
you uh, kind of explain why it's so critically important to have those guardians named and have a plan
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
place?
absolutely. So, one thing that I see time and time again is parents, especially of young kids, and not being concerned with naming a guardian. They'll say something like, I've got plenty of people in my family that would take care of them. And while that's maybe true, it's actually a problem. That's what led to that that horrible litigation that I talked about earlier, because your sister Jill wants your kids, and so does your husband's aunt Pam, and then next thing you know, they're in that years long custody battle that isn't good for anyone, especially the kid. um so yeah, just naming a guardian, it's such a simple thing to do, but it can, hopefully it's never needed, but if it is, it can absolutely change things. And it's very important.
Yeah, I think people have this misconception that, well, the family all gets along, they'll all figure it out. Well, um, families fight, man. Uh, I know this, and they rarely can agree, on the same thing. And so it's like, um, my one son, Nick, and his wife Corinne, they're expecting their first child in in
Congrats.
Thank you. In March. And so I've been pounding him, and he has not yet gotten this done, but he will. You know, you need an estate plan. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, we don't, and they have a house and they've got assets, which is important. But he still thinks, well, we don't have much. And if something happens to me, Corinne's good and stuff. But, it's like, what happens to both of you?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't think that, maybe Michelle and I might want to raise the child over her parents. And, and we're here and they're in California, and, it's going to be bloody the time
Yeah.
it's said and done. But expressing
Absolutely.
your wishes, naming a guardian, and then, of course, probably a good idea to make sure you let the person know that you wish to name a guardian,
Yeah.
to get their
So
agreement, right?
first steps, what I like to people, first steps before you even talk to an estate planning attorney, or if you're not ready to start talking to an estate planning attorney, which just do it, you're ready. but um, but if you want to be doing something, have those conversations. Have the conversation with the person you want to be the guardian, and not just on a surface level of, because people bring that stuff up and then they're like, yeah, obviously I'll do it. And then, it makes them uncomfortable. So they don't want to continue that conversation, but they're like, yeah, I'll do it. But go into it, tell them why and what kind of, the reason you chose them is probably because you believe that they will do things in a certain way. So go into that, and then obviously, if that's not the person that might be in charge of money and assets, then you'll need to talk to that person as well.
Yeah.
But just have those conversations.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to somebody, this is quite a while back, and I think a lot of people have the misconception that, oh, well, little Susie, she has a godmother and a godfather.
Hmm.
They'll take care of them. Well, it's like, no, that's a religious thing.
Yeah.
That's somebody that's
So
going,
many people think that too.
right. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, I'm not saying those people are crazy for thinking that. I mean, they just have that
Yeah.
misconception.
Yeah. I thought that my whole life until I became a lawyer.
Right. And it's like, wow, it doesn't work that way, does it?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And then, of course, you have to tell those people, look, we're not going to leave you. You know, we know it costs a lot of money to raise children. So, trust to be established upon our death. It would be funded for,
Yeah.
and those kinds of things. But it's simple planning, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that hard.
No.
I always ask this question. I know you saw it, of course, when you were in family law side of things. Um, do do you have any particular story that you could share of, like, the situation where kids were tied up, uh, with a guardian ad litem as they try to figure everything out, and those kind of.
Oh. Well, the story I told, um, kind of towards the beginning when we first started talking, that was based on a real case that I handled. Um, and like I said, just about the time that kid was used to house A and adjusting to it is when he got ripped out and put into house B. Had to restart that whole process, and it's not good for anyone, but it's obviously the kid is who it's going to really affect.
How
Um,
long did that take? Do you remember the whole process?
so I was the second attorney on that case, and I was on it for close to a year. And I think it had been going for, I don't remember exactly how long, but it was well over a year, that case.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So to all our listeners out there, if you have small children, um, thinking this through and getting something established will certainly be a heck of a lot better than a 2-year experience
Yeah.
of having a child pass back and forth between various family members that the
Yeah.
court deems would be appropriate, or, God forbid, worse, foster care,
Yeah.
until things are worked out,
Absolutely.
right?
And even if you have adult children, because then it's about money and assets. Obviously, you're not giving custody of your adult children to anyone, hopefully. But you know, people do weird things when they're grieving, and I've had brother and sister walk into my office and hire me as, close as can be. And then 6 months later, um, they absolutely hate each other. They're mortal enemies and won't speak to each other at all. Because people, they, like I said, they act weird when they're grieving, and then you throw money in there, and it just compounds the problem. So even if you've got adult children, I mean, always, 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 it's important.
Definitely need the plan. It's true. I always say that you know if families don't agree, children don't agree. I mean, we never could agree on what movie to go see, what to eat for dinner, those kind of things, let alone if you think your adult children are all going to agree of, oh no, why don't you take dad's 1965 Mustang, uh and I'll just take the tools.
Yeah.
uh Mom promised the china to both the girls, and if you don't think they're going to fight over that stuff, you are wrong,
Yeah.
because we
But a
had a
lot of times, like you
situation.
said, it's the china or the more little things. It's not the bank accounts. It's,
Mm.
it's,
My listeners have heard this numerous times, and I always come back to what happened in ours. We had family members, I'm not kidding you, fighting over a pair of binoculars. And
oh my
I was like, are you kidding? Look, who are you people? Look, one of you take, I'll buy somebody a pair of binoculars.
God. Were
But
they sentimental binoculars?
the thing is, that's what, we always have to remember, that there are certain things that have sentimental value to
Mhm.
people. And, in that kind of situation,
Yeah.
they're not going to disagree, or not going to agree. They will
Yeah.
disagree, and they'll fight over it. And I
Yep.
mean, is that the legacy I want to leave my kids? Is to let them fight things out? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But hey, well, I really appreciate this. We're bumping up on our time. Let me ask this: is there anything that I didn't ask you that maybe I should have?
Um, Not that I can think of. Get started, do something, even if it's just having those conversations to all
Right,
the people listening.
right. Well, as I say to people, it's like, look, I mean, maybe it's will, maybe it's full trust. I don't know your situation. There's a price difference between the two. But when you look at the price of a trust, that, I don't know, maybe it's going to cost $3,000.
Hmm.
If you don't do that, and family has to go through probate, it's going to take years and cost a heck of a lot more than $3,000.
Yeah. I like to tell people plan for probate to cost between 3 and 8% of the total estate. And by
Wow.
total estate, I mean everything. So I mean, even if you got a house worth $500,000, 3% of that on the low end is what, 15,000.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's after getting a will. So
Yeah. Wow. Hey, I really appreciate your time. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out? I mean, clearly, you might not be in Tennessee at the moment, but some of our listeners are. They need
mhm.
to do some planning, and because of the way you operate your practice, it'd be awesome if they could reach out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And first off, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a blast.
Um,
Um, but the easiest way is probably just to head over to my website, chesserlegal.com. It's CHESSER legal.com. Hit click get started. And it'll take you to a calendaring page. You could set exactly when we can talk on your schedule. It makes it super easy. It takes about 2 seconds. But if you just want to call me or email me, that's always fine as well. My email is robert@chesserlegal.com. Phone number is 865-500-3050.
Awesome. And for our listeners' convenience, I will go ahead and post all that contact information in the bottom of the show notes.
Awesome.
Um, Robert, thank you again. I really appreciate you joining me today. It's been a blast. Best to you and your wife. Enjoy your time in Oregon and then down in Southern California.
Yeah, thanks, John. Like I said, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll be talking here before too long.
That sounds great. And hey, to our listeners, as always, plan ahead and make it a great day. Thank you for joining us for another insightful episode of Estate Planning Nightmares and How to Avoid Them. We hope you've enjoyed delving into the world of estate planning and gaining valuable insights to protect your own legacy. Remember, the stories we've uncovered today are cautionary tales designed to empower you with knowledge. Estate planning doesn't have to be a nightmare. In fact, it can be a path to peace of mind and security for your loved ones. As we wrap today's episode, we'd like to remind you that your legacy is worth safeguarding, and it starts with proper planning. Whether you're starting from scratch, revisiting an existing plan, this podcast is your go-to resource for all things estate planning. Wills, trusts, probate, guardianship, tax considerations, family dynamics. We will cover it all with our amazing guests. So stay tuned for more gripping stories, expert advice, and practical tips that will guide you towards a seamless and successful estate plan. Don't let your estate become the stuff of nightmares. Learn from the mistakes of others and take proactive steps to secure your legacy. Thank you for listening, and remember, when it comes to estate planning, knowledge is power. Until next time, take care, and may your legacy be one of peace and prosperity.